Mario Cristobal, Will Harris, and Zach Etheridge will not sleep until the Miami Hurricanes have signed every available defensive back on planet Earth. We got a big one visiting today, another star scheduled to visit tomorrow, and a third who's very much on the radar.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanos Cristobal is out there trying to collect every safety like infinity stones. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and writer for Canes County at Rivals. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. On this loaded episode, which will be our first of the day and not our last, because we'll have a Truth Teller Tuesday with a special guest coming on later today. We'll talk about the Canes baseball hot streak. 9 wins in their last 10 games, 12 wins in their last 15, 2 sweeps in ACC series, including a big sweep at Fenway this past weekend. We're going to be talking with starting pitcher Griffin Hugus and left fielder Max Galvin on this episode. So I know our pal Raymond, G.A. Kane fan, who's our baseball guy, is going to be very proud. We're giving baseball a lot of coverage today, and why not? They have a huge series with NC State coming up this weekend. We're going to talk about defensive back transfer portal visitors at Miami this week and how this really could be a decisive transfer portal week for Miami and could be like the final decisive transfer portal week because some big visits coming up. You know, Miami did sign that trifecta of portal players, you know, new receiver, Keelan Marion, new linebacker, Kamal Bonner, new kicker, Bert Auburn out of Texas. But we know Hurricanes are still looking, especially at defensive back, and could still be looking for another receiver. And all right, so the big visit that's going on today is Houston transfer safety AJ Haulcy. 6 foot tall, 250 would be a little heavy for a safety. 215-pound safety, first team all Big 12 this past season with 5 interceptions. It's a really big hitter as well. Ball hawk. And Haulcy, he's got that familiarity with Zach Etheridge, and Etheridge is going to be a common theme on this episode. He was his position coach this past season at Houston. So I know we had talked about on yesterday's episode the Haulcy visit being on a Monday. So as it turns out, while Haulcy did arrive in Miami on Monday, his arrival in Coral Gables happened like late in the day, in the evening. So the meat and potatoes of that visit for AJ Haulcy is happening today in Coral Gables, where, you know, he's going to be getting the scoop on how he can fit into Miami's defense, why he is needed. And, you know, obviously every starting job needs to be won in practice, and the competitions are always open. From where I sit, if Miami can add AJ Haulcy, like, he looks like a guy who you would probably pencil in to start next to another transfer in Zechariah Poyser out of Jacksonville State, who transferred to Miami in the winter, played spring ball here, and was a really consistent performer in practice. And so you're talking about potential of really turning around your safety room and also having quality depth, because I give a lot of credit to Dylan Day, who's had a really good spring. He's heading into his second year at Miami, and Markeith Williams has also performed really well. Keep in mind, of course, Miami lost Zaquan Patterson into the transfer portal, who, you know, we're all very much excited about his potential heading into his second year, but he seeks opportunity elsewhere. So it's why Miami is really pumping this safety position. And when it comes to AJ Haulcy, it's worth noting that he has obviously talked to some teams out there. You know, previously, it was last week, you know, Miami sent coaches out to meet with him. I believe that meeting happened in Houston. Same thing with Ole Miss. Ole Miss sent coaches out to talk with him at his location in Houston. And so his actual trip now coming down to Miami is the first and hopefully last visit to someone's campus AJ Haulcy is making. So Ole Miss you can view as Miami's primary competition for him, but LSU, a safety-starved program, SEC big-time program, of course, is also trying to very much get themselves into that mix. And, if you hear what's coming out of the LSU side of it, they're keeping their fingers crossed today, and they're really hoping that Haulcy were to leave Miami without making a commitment, because that would kind of keep their dreams alive of beating out Miami for this player. But of course, Miami has the need at safety. Miami has the availability, and they also have the familiarity that he has with his former position coach at Houston. So that AJ Haulcy visit is happening throughout the day today, and hopefully Miami hits it out of the park, because he is needed here. And this is not the only big-time safety that Miami is after. In fact, AJ Haulcy should be thinking, if I leave Coral Gables without committing, they got another really good one coming in tomorrow. So I may want to lock my spot up here early, because Miami is expected to have a visit on Wednesday from Tennessee Volunteers safety transfer Jacob Thomas. Now, Thomas was one of, and we said that this could happen around the country, if players filled out their paperwork like right before the deadline at the end of day. It might have even been midnight on Friday. I don't know when the exact, it was 5 p.m. or midnight, but the players who filed their paperwork like right at the deadline last Friday, it may be a little bit of a lag before their name officially hits the portal. And that was the case for Jacob Thomas out of Tennessee. He officially was put in the transfer portal on Monday. And, this guy is going to be very sought after, but the two visits that he has so far planned this week are to Miami and to Florida State. So we may be competing with the Seminoles for this guy. And Jacob Thomas, by the way, is considered already to be a top 10 available player in the transfer portal. Really productive in Tennessee, 263 snaps played for the Volunteers last year. A guy who was, according to 24/7 Sports, looked at as a potential starter heading into this season, had 22 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss last year. He actually, and I hate to bring this up, but before he played at Tennessee, he played at Middle Tennessee. And yeah, he was on that Middle Tennessee team that, we hate to bring it up, back in, 2022, who beat Miami. So let's hope he doesn't bring any of that smoke down here. But Jacob Thomas, transfer out of Tennessee, is someone that we can certainly look at. And then there's another Houston defensive back. Now, he hadn't actually played at Houston, but there's still a Zach Etheridge tie-in. So bear with me on this one. But Houston defensive back, listed as a safety, but he could play nickel. And he could play nickel at a high level, and he could become a tremendous option for the Hurricanes. Another player who just hit the transfer portal is Houston defensive back Keontae Scott. Now, why I could definitely see Keontae Scott potentially ending up in Miami was, this is a player who back in 2023 played defensive back at Auburn, which is where Zach Etheridge was that year. Then Zach Etheridge leaves Auburn to go to Houston, and Keontae Scott, back in the winter transfer portal window, when he still thought Zach Etheridge was going to be coaching there in 2025, he essentially followed Zach Etheridge to Houston. Etheridge leaves Houston for Miami, and now Keontae Scott is back in the transfer portal. So again, I can't guarantee you he's going to be a Hurricane, but he seems to really enjoy playing for and committing to play for Zach Etheridge. So Miami is looked at as being a team to watch here. Now, but one thing somebody noted to me, and this has happened with a number of players who have entered the portal, and not all of them have ended up Hurricanes, right? Like Trevor Pena, as soon as he hit the transfer portal, everyone's like, oh, what? Miami's a team to watch here. He ends up going to Penn State. And it's, we used to call Steve Wiltfong the Grim Reaper, but I'm now going to give that name to Pete Nakos of On3, because like anytime a player hits the portal, Nakos is like, watch out for Miami with this one, and the player goes somewhere else. And apparently he did that as well. The Grim Reaper, the new Grim Reaper, did that here with Keontae Scott, that he immediately linked him to Miami. So that might be the kiss of death. He may end up going somewhere else. But, this is a player who When he was at Auburn during his career there, posted 115 tackles, 6 tackles for loss. So Houston defensive back Keontae Scott could be another one to watch. In terms of the guys who are visiting this week, Miami has A.J. Haulcy, Houston safety, first team All Big 12, one of the top players available in the portal on campus today. Jacob Thomas, another top 10 player available in the portal, Tennessee defensive back who could play nickel at Miami or anywhere he chooses to go, scheduled to visit tomorrow, and Keontae Scott on the radar as well. It's an absolutely loaded week. Want to talk a little bit about the offensive side of the football for Miami when we come back. And remember, we're going to have Griffin Hugus, starting pitcher, and Max Galvin, left fielder, from Miami's suddenly very successful baseball team on with us in a little bit. You want to keep it locked right here? We're only getting started on this brand new Locked On Canes. Friends, find out why Game Time is the only ticket app that I use, because I'm getting the best features, the best prices, and the prices get lower the closer you get to the event starting. And there's nothing like the atmosphere of playoff games. Every bucket, every slap shot, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in that arena. And with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket buying. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Plus, prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer. Their last-minute deals at Game Time can save you up to 60%. Not only that, the all-in pricing feature on the app means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you get. You can even get a panoramic view in the app from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what you're going to be looking at in that arena or in that stadium. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. For your next listen, make sure you check out the Portal podcast. Our pal, friend of the show, Brian Smith, the Portal and recruiting overlord, works overtime on the Portal podcast on Locked On every single day, sometimes multiple times per day, like us here at Locked On Canes. Brian Smith is giving you updates, top Portal signings, top Portal available players, all the rumors about NIL deals. All of that is on the Portal podcast, free wherever you get your podcasts and free on YouTube. Want to get to some more of you guys' questions. Remember, I couldn't answer all of the Locked On Canes Insiders questions on yesterday's episode. Click the link in the show description below to become a Locked On Canes Insider. We get this one from John in Tampa, who says, hey, who are the top remaining targets in the transfer portal for Miami, and how do you think we're doing with each of them? A few of them I mentioned, A.J. Haulcy, Keontae Scott, Jacob Thomas, the 3 defensive backs. Another one that's kind of emerged as a recent target throughout the past several days is Cal wide receiver Jonathan Brady, who, more of a slot guy, but I think he can play on the outside if needed. Another slot receiver out of Cincinnati, Tony Johnson, has been and I think is still somewhat of a target for Miami. He played 77% of his snaps in the slot last year. A couple notes on, because sometimes people still ask me about players who are like no longer available. So I just want to make sure we get these out of the way as well. So, a player that Miami had hosted for a visit a couple weeks ago was Boise State defensive tackle Braxton Feely. Feely actually decided to stay at Boise State. I don't know the exact circumstances there. Maybe he didn't necessarily like the buzz he was getting from other programs and decided, the grass isn't always greener. Because, one of the things that I did hear about Feely was that, he's listed at 6'1". Maybe when you see him in person, might have been a little bit smaller than advertised. So, I don't know if the interest there was maybe completely mutual, but we did bring him down for a visit. And then, a player that I really liked, I think all of us really liked, was Georgia State wide receiver Ted Hurst. He's staying at Georgia State. I don't know if there was like an issue with his transcripts, like maybe Miami didn't have his major, or he was having issues like transferring over his. I mean, staying at I guess I can understand staying at Boise State, but staying at Georgia State was a little odd. But he's staying put there. So those are a couple players that are off the table for Miami. A player that I really like is Rutgers linebacker Mohamed Toure, who does have a history with Corey Heatherman. That was his position coach in 2023. But with Toure, I've been hearing a lot of Penn State buzz that could be the spot for him. And it's like, Penn State again? Trevor Pena and now Mohamed Toure. Obviously Penn State's defense was very successful last year and in recent years. Another one we've been watching for the past couple weeks is Florida Gators safety Gregory Smith III. This was another Nakos curse because everyone mentioned watch out for Miami with him, and he did visit Miami. But last I checked with Smith, he was and maybe still is on a visit to the North Carolina Tar Heels, and the Tar Heels signed one of his teammates recently, another player, another Nakos curse. DeAndre Robinson, the defensive tackle from Florida, that was supposed to be a guy. Watch out for he signed with North Carolina, and so we'll see if Smith might join him there. So watch out for UNC there. So those are some of the other targets. Forgive me if I missed anybody, because again, it's like my head is spinning with all this transfer portal stuff. But I think I answered your question pretty well there. We get this one from Omi1. This is a great question, and I'm sure that this was probably inspired by Xavier Restrepo, who should have been drafted. Like I don't care what the 40 time was. The film does not lie. Xavier Restrepo should have been drafted, but I'm happy he's a Titan undrafted free agent because Tennessee's a good spot for him. But he should have been drafted. But Omi1 says, hey, why don't they ever time the 40-yard dash in pads on, in football uniform pants? I mean, that's what really matters, he says. And yeah, that's one of those classic questions. Like, how come you run the 40-yard dash in like skin tight underwear and not in football gear, right? So it seems ridiculous to a lot of us because like the 40-yard dash, especially running it in skin tight spandex, is not a football situation. But so I asked around, asked a couple of coaches about this, high school level coaches that I know, and I asked someone who's involved in combine type workouts at a lower level of football. You get multiple answers. One coach that I asked about it kind of laughed off the whole 40 time thing, said old school. It's ridiculous to do it without gear on. The 40-yard dash is like a massively overrated metric to judge a football player by. And I agree, right? I mean, game speed, game film should matter more. Another answer that I got was, and I guess this makes sense, that, the 40-yard dash, like, they're not trying to create a football situation. Like, that's not the goal of it. It's simply about comparing players' speed to one another. Like, it's not meant to judge how you move in football gear. It's just a comparison of speed and like an indicator of athleticism. That it's like, it's not supposed to simulate a football situation, which makes sense, but it's still, kind of minimizes the importance of the 40 time. Part of my hunch on why they do it that way is, if you're not wearing gear, you're obviously going to run faster without gear on, and it's going to make the times look better, and it's going to be more exciting. Like, oh my gosh, this guy ran a 4.2. Like, running a 4.2 is a lot more exciting than you've got pads and helmet on and you run a 4.7, right? Like, so I think it just inflates the numbers to make it more exciting. But another answer that I got, which probably makes the most sense, is that like a reason why they do it without gear on is because there's really no standard for football gear. That if you were to provide players with like standard combine gear, that gear might not properly fit their bodies. It's not tailored to them. It might not be exactly the type of equipment that they actually play in. And then if you let players bring their own gear, some guys might cheat and wear lighter non-standard gear in order to shave milliseconds off of their time. So maybe, the standardized, track skin tight suit is actually the best way to do it. So that's what I got on that. We're going to make our guy Raymond proud when we come back, and we're going to make our audience proud because, guys, I have been pumped about the way Miami baseball has been playing. Like, these guys have recaptured some of the magic, and they're making a second half season run, 2 straight sweeps in ACC play, 9 wins in their last 10. We're going to talk with starting pitcher Griffin Hugus and left fielder Max Galvin when we come back. You want to keep it locked right here, my friends. We're not done yet on Locked On Canes. You know I'm not done with FanDuel. Folks, NBA playoffs are in full swing. FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Do not miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 bonus bet offer today. Miami Hurricanes baseball team is on an absolute tear. And what a turnaround. It makes me think of, the classic gif of the Undertaker, WWE, where he's like laying down on the mat and then all of a sudden he sits up and it's like he's back. Miami baseball has won. They've swept 2 straight series in the ACC, including a big sweep at Fenway this past weekend. Miami's won 9 of their last 10 games, 12 of their past 15. And we have the privilege of being joined by a pair of Miami Hurricanes baseball studs. The man with the strikeouts and the mustache, starting pitcher Griffin Hugus, is with us. We're also joined by left fielder Max Galvin. Thank you guys so much both for being here. And I guess, Griffin, I'll start with you, and then Max, you can jump in on this. I mean, how cool was it to not only play at Fenway, but to sweep a series at Fenway? I got to be any sports fan's dream is to play a series at Fenway Park. What was that like?
That was just unbelievable. It was like playing in the baseball cathedral of the world. It was just an unbelievable experience. It was cool for the ALS disease game that we got to play for Boston College, just showing support for that and being a part of that is always awesome as well. So it was just cool to be a part of all those things. Obviously, winning makes it a lot sweeter, but it was just cool to be included in that. And it was just a really fun weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking at bats, where Babe Ruth and Ted Williams and all these legendary people have, played their games was really special. And, the sweep on top of that, and especially like Griff said, playing for the ALS disease and, trying to find a cure for that was huge. It was just a really great experience overall.
It's been incredible. And for you guys, I mentioned at the top the streak that Miami baseball has been on: consecutive conference sweeps, 9 wins in your last 10 games, 12 of the last 15. I mean, what's been different about this? I mean, Griff, again, I'll start with you, and then Max, you can chime in. Has there been anything like baseball-wise that you guys have tweaked? Anything, different in the approach, or was it really just a matter of finding your groove and finding some momentum?
I think it's a true testament to the coaching, just showing us the relentlessness and the grittiness that we have. We kind of showed up every day with the same mentality of like, we can beat anybody in the country. We're going to play as hard as we can. And early in the year, we were getting unlucky and we didn't catch our groove, as you were saying. But I think just that shows the coaching, just even though we had so much failure early in the year, we were able to just to keep that going and keep consistency. And I thought it really shows how the coaching really just kept that confidence in us, and it really helped us now catch our groove and continue to play the same way we've been playing all year, but at just a higher level.
Exactly. I think it's had a snowball effect. The more we play with each other, the more we know how to win as a team. And so everybody's kind of settled into their roles and knows what, they need to do in order for us to win.
Yeah. And Max, I mean, for you, tell your story about how you ended up, back in the city of Miami and on the Miami Hurricanes, because I know it was a journey for you, and you played for a while at Miami-Dade before going to Oklahoma State, and you're originally from Coral Gables. Is that right? Like, how did you end up a Hurricane?
Well, I was born in Dallas and then went to boarding school at IMG Academy and then went to Miami-Dade out of IMG. And then as soon as I go to Oklahoma State, my family moves from Bradenton Beach, where they relocated from Dallas, to Miami. And so after Oklahoma State, Miami was the school that I wanted to go to. Being a Hurricane is special, and I'm glad to be playing here in front of my family. It's a special thing, and so that's kind of my journey. It's been a long one, and being here is just a dream come true.
And Griffin, your journey, because you came into Miami from Cincinnati. How did you end up becoming a Cane?
Really, just early in my career, I was playing shortstop and two-wing a little bit more than swing the bat anymore. I don't swing the bat anymore, so it's a lot different than what I was doing freshman year. But when I entered the portal, I really liked the idea of coming close to home, and Coach Laz and Coach Anderson and Coach JD really showed me that confidence in the portal, that they really had a clear goal and idea for me and part of the team. And I really think just from hearing about other players also who played here in years past, about the coaches, just seeing the love they had for those guys and how much they enjoyed playing for the coaches, it really made an easy decision for me just to come back here.
Yeah, and the other thing, and Max, I'll go to you first on this one. We talk about just the incredible run of form that Miami baseball has been on and the streak that you guys are on. I know that going back, a few weeks, it may have looked like kind of insurmountable to get yourselves, back into the top half of the ACC and to revive all of your, postseason dreams that are all very much in play now. I mean, was it ever difficult to kind of take that one game at a time? Because that's really what it's got to be, right? Because, I mean, Miami fans were looking at the situation a month ago and it looked pretty dire. And now you guys are in every race you can be in.
Yeah, it like you said, it is taking it one game at a time. And the most important game that we're ever going to play is always going to be the next game. And so it's really taking that approach and taking each at bat and each pitch and just trying to execute and, believing that we can beat any team in the country, like Griff said. The Duke win for us, that series win was huge, and then it kind of snowballed into Pitt was before, and then Duke, and then obviously the Georgia Tech series, which really opened our eyes. And, we've taken that momentum into Boston College, and we're going to take it into NC State as well.
Yeah, Griff, how about that? Of course, you've got a different role, pitching once per weekend, but you've obviously been a huge part of Miami digging out that hole.
It's just, I think the impact that coaches put me in this role is more than just the game I throw, and it's pretty cool just to be able to be a part of the team for the other games of the week when we play 4 a week, and I get to be in the dugout for 3 of those. Just be able to support the guys, and then I think that's the biggest the biggest impact that I feel like I've been able to show on the team is our last ACC loss is actually a game I threw in, which I think is always funny because that shows how much fun and good this team can be and how much these young guys have stepped up and how much we can have an impact as pitchers when we don't throw. And I think that's the blast of this season so far, is just being able to be a part of the team even when I don't get to be on the field.
And just a massive series coming up with NC State, who's top of the ACC standings, 13th ranked NC State Wolfpack. And I really need you guys to win the series for me, preferably a sweep, but I'll take 2 out of 3 would be okay. Because, my co-host on Locked On ACC, Kenton Gibbs, he's a, former NC State football player. He's all about NC State baseball. So I need some bragging rights coming up this weekend. But, Max, I'll start with you. Talk about the challenges of NC State this weekend and what you're expecting.
Yeah, we're obviously expecting the number 1 team and the ACC to show up. And it's not the first time that the number 1 team in the ACC has walked into the light and gotten beat. And so it's going to be a dogfight. And, we need to pack the light and get as many people there as possible because we feed off the energy of the fans. And whenever we have a huge community show up and support us, it really helps our team.
Yeah, what are you expecting, Griff, from those NC State bats that you're going to be seeing?
I'm expecting it's going to be a really fun weekend. I love getting to play good teams because it just shows how good that we are as a squad, and it just gives us that confidence and shows everybody else in the country how for real we really are. And I think we got to do a good job against Georgia Tech, and it really showed. And I think gave everybody else confidence in us that we already had in ourselves. So I think it's another opportunity just to show everybody else how good we are and really go out there and have a blast with each other because it really is just so much fun every game just to go out there with all 40 guys and just play baseball. So.
Yeah, and I noticed that there's a bunch of theme nights coming up. This is such a huge series at home against NC State at the Light. Friday is going to be Military Appreciation and 1940s night. Saturday is going to be 1985 National Championship Team reunion and 1980s night. And then Sunday is going to be, that's May 4th. That's Star Wars Day, and it's 1970s night. I mean, Griff, I feel like, your look with the mustache, you can fit in really well. Would you say that your stash is more of a 70s or an 80s stash?
I'd like to think it's a 70s stash, but we'll see. Hopefully it can be an 80s and a 70s stash. That means we win both games. So
That's right.
I'll do whatever we can do to win the game. If it means to make it an 80s stash for Saturday and a 70s stash for Sunday, I'll do that.
Well, and if you can like curl the ends of it, you can make it a 40 stash as well for the first one.
Reese Lumpkin has been doing that recently, and it's been pretty awesome just to see what he's been pulling off. So it's going to be an exciting weekend.
Yeah, and Max, do you guys? I mentioned there's the 1985 National Championship Team reunion. Do you guys, ever hear from some of the great baseball players? There's so many great ones over the years at Miami. Do you hear from some of the alumni that used to play and some of the guys who won championships here?
They come in and out of the facility. It's really good to see them. They're always talking to us about what it means to be a Miami Hurricane and the significance of playing for this program. And it is really rubbed off because I grew up a Miami Hurricanes fan, and just being able to interact with them is just amazing. And for all of them to come back on Saturday for the reunion is huge.
Yeah, it's absolutely massive. So, of course, anytime we're talking Hurricanes baseball, I've got to bring up the Mark Light Shake because it's an absolute institution. And I was telling you guys, like, I'm trying to drop a little weight. So if I go out there for a weekend series, I got to pick my day. Like, I got either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I can't be getting shakes all 3 nights. But if anyone else wants to do that, you're welcome to. Do you guys, Griff, I'll start with you. Do you guys have a favorite shake? And how often do you get to drink them?
I get a little lucky because I only throw on Fridays. So getting a shake on Saturday usually is my go-to. And the new Snickerdoodle shake's pretty good, I'll say. I've been getting that one a couple of times. So I definitely get a little more shakes probably than Max does because he has to play every day. So I get the luxury of getting a milkshake on Saturdays.
Yeah. I've had a few of them. I obviously don't have them often, but whenever I do, I really like the Wizard. I'm a chocolate guy. I've also had the Snickerdoodle, but I really like the Wizard. The Heat Bar is really good. Just don't tell Nick Soto, all right?
Your secret is safe. And yeah, I'm a big chocolate guy, and I got my my 7-year-old son who loves the Mark Light shakes. It's like the more chocolate, the better for him. But the problem with him is he drinks a Mark Light shake. He's up for like 36 hours. Like the energy gets through the roof with him. So we got to pick our spots with him as well. So huge series coming up with NC State. And by the way, Griff, I saw that you're tied for 5th in the ACC right now in strikeouts. So let's keep that number going. I want to see you at number 1 by the end of the next couple series. And Max, keep doing what you're doing, my friend. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and best of luck. And before I let you guys go, Max and Griff, do you have anything you want to say to the fans out there? Because like I think Griff mentioned this, even when you guys were losing at the beginning of the year, the fan support was still awesome, and now you're winning. The volume has gone up to like a 12 out of 10. So anything you want to say to the Canes baseball faithful?
I would just say that we appreciate all the support we've gotten so far this year, and just continue to come out and pack the light for this weekend. It's going to be a really fun weekend. As you were mentioning, all the fun promos, and then obviously the great baseball we're going to be able to play. It's going to be a blast, and we're just hoping to see all the faithful there and fill in the stands.
Absolutely. We feed off the energy of the crowd, and the more people show up, the better chance we have to win.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Man, awesome job talking to both of you guys, Griff and Max, and best of luck this weekend at the Light. I hope to see everybody out there at the Light, by the way. And we'll talk to you guys again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.